Welcome to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings, with me, Gretta Chamberlain, Yvonne Kraeher, Leigh Stima, and the Realm of Beings. Shifting Impressions, which is one of the vehicles that supports the transmission of the Realm of Beings, is here to assist you in delving into your being by providing numerous topics and discussions for you to intake as you deepen your connection with your inner world. Shifting Impressions is here to assist you in strengthening yourself as you excavate to understand your true nature. Leigh, Yvonne, and myself, with the Realm of Beings, eagerly invite you to join us today and learn to shift your mindset, shift your thoughts, and shift your focus to recreate your life and produce a new you. Shifting Impressions starts now.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. I'm Leigh, and I'm here with Yvonne and Gretta, and as always, the Realm of Beings. And we are so pleased to be on Transformation Talk Radio every Friday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you might hear the term Realm of Beings, and you might ask yourself, who are they and how do they operate in our lives? If you are new to our podcast, we go in great depth and detail on the first episode, Introduction to Shifting Impressions of the podcast. So if you have any questions about that, please refer back to that episode where we cover everything. We want these conversations to help you examine your life and your creation of reality. They will help you to shift your impressions and understand what you're creating in your life and how it shows up. Today, we're going to be discussing the quotation from the Realm of Beings: everything has purpose in your existence. Everything works for your good. Welcome, ladies.
Good morning.
Morning, Leigh. Good morning.
And if you happen to be listening to us live right now, you have any questions about what we're discussing this morning, you feel free to call us at 800-930-2819, and we'd be happy to answer anything you may be thinking about this morning. So, everything has purpose in your existence. Everything works for your good. Where do we start? Do we start with existence? Do we start with purpose? Where do we begin?
I think it would be good to start with purpose, because people are always asking me, what is my purpose? And I tell them, I said, your purpose is not to be the president of the United States. Your purpose is not to be a woman of the night. Your purpose is not to be a teacher. These are not really your purposes. Those are things that you've chosen to assist you in your creation of reality. But the main purpose is one that we've been saying really every time we have this podcast practically. And that is to know, to love self. That is the purpose. To always remember to love self, regardless of what is going on around you that you've created. Some things we're happy about, some things we wish we had never touched with a 10-foot pole. But the thing is that it's to love ourselves unconditionally, to not blame yourself for something you did not accomplish, to not blame yourself, well, I didn't go back to school or I didn't finish my degree. Don't blame yourself for that, because all of that is nothing but illusion to begin with. But to love self is going to be a trueness, love of self. And sometimes we like to put others before ourselves. And that means that you are loving them, but at the same token, you are trying to be their savior, if you're putting them before yourself. Let me help them. And you can never help anybody else. That's impossible. You cannot save anybody else. That's impossible. Because each individual is responsible for their own creation of reality. Each individual. Notice I didn't say each person. I said each individual. That includes even the plant that you see that is standing so nice and tall. The corn plant behind Yvonne is also creating its own reality. It's a living being, it's energy. Energy is what makes everything exist. Yeah. So that's what I would say. Love of self.
I feel like that takes a lot of pressure off of people. It's not always easy, like living in the Maya or the illusion, because we're always presented with lessons and challenges, and things come up that really we can't control on a daily or I mean we can, but it feels like we can't. But yeah, I mean, those challenges, like if you just break it down into that, your purpose is to know yourself and love yourself and focus on that. That is some really good advice, Greta. I like that. And it brings us all together too. And it helps us realize that everything that's out there is really for our benefit. And it works, like that's part of the quote too. Everything works for your good. And that when we're too harsh on ourselves as well as others, I mean, you constantly could get into this game of blaming other people or blaming yourself for things that didn't go the way you had hoped they would or expected they should. Yeah, I mean, you get into a place of non-love. You're not loving yourself. But if we could just keep bringing our energy back to back into our hearts and keep loving ourselves, I think the world definitely, it would be a better place, and there would be no separation. We wouldn't feel that separation and that division because through media and through the world, we're faced with left and right, red and blue, this and that, rich and poor. Everything you hear is about separation and division. And honestly, if you really just kind of contemplate that deeper and realize, we can't be separated. There are no separations. Everything is energy. We're all part of the same field. Excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. The energy is the same. And we said that we are all equal. The plant, if we got rid of the structure of the plants that you see on our screens, on our individual screens, and you take everything that you see and take it down to energy, which is living, it will all look alike. We will all look alike. The plant, the chair, the paintings, the wheel, the walls, all one energy. And that's the energy of the force. The force is the reality, or as they would say sometimes, the true reality. And don't, it goes back also, I'm going to stop what I was getting ready to say and say it also deals with mental equivalencies. We have to bring that in again, because if you're understanding the concept of mental equivalencies, then you know that if I prick my finger, that means something. If I prick, which finger I prick also means something. I was talking to somebody about the teeth. Each tooth means something. Each vertebrae in your back means something. Everything that's part of your body means something. It's telling you something. If it gets hurt, it's letting you know why it's gotten hurt. You know, it may be that you feel you cut your finger. Yes, maybe you did, but which finger did you cut? Because each one is different. If you cut your ring finger, then that means you're having challenges within a relationship. So everything means something. Everything has purpose. And it gives us the opportunity to silence something we don't want. Just silence it by saying, I don't want this anymore. I want to change. I don't want to go through this anymore. You know. But you want to be careful what you ask for as well. So clarify that. Make sure you're asking for what you really want to experience. And if it's real vague, then the energy is going to think, well, you didn't make up your mind. You aren't quite sure what it is. So, but here's an opportunity. Let me assist you in the creation of that opportunity. And then you go, oh my God, how in the heck did I create that? And then why? So that's when we don't think that everything is for our good, but it really is, because it's showing you something about you. If it's something heinous that was created, it's still showing you something about you, because you created that reality. Like Yvonne said, you don't want to blame somebody else for your own creation of reality. And remember what we said is that nobody can hurt you. Nobody. It's impossible. So you've been blaming mama for something that she did 25 years ago. You're blaming your sister for what she did yesterday. Remember, it has nothing to do with them. It has to do with you. If you personally experienced it, if you personally experienced the psychological pain or the guilt of something, then you created that. The other person is just supporting you in that.
Gretta, can we explore a little bit about the first part where everything has purpose in your existence? Because to me, maybe, and maybe to some others listening, can you explain, break down a little bit of like the purpose of those externalities that we relate to or that we think we're here for? Like I think my purpose is here, my purpose is to be, a mother, a father, employee at XYZ job. So what can those things teach us, or what can we learn from that, like, identification?
Well, let's say if you, I'm trying to think of a good example. Let's say that you get into a disagreement with your mate, your domestic partner. You're in a disagreement with that person. That person, there might be an exchange of words. That person may say something to you that hurts you. Don't look at the person, look at yourself and say, why did I create that? See, the why is the important lead. Why did I create that? Why did that person say that to me? We have two important words in creation of reality: how and why. How and why.
Why would somebody say something like that to you? If they love you, you're in a relationship, in a domestic partnership, and they say something that hurts you, like, why would they do that?
Because they're supporting you and being hurt. You've
Mhm.
hung on to that particular emotional challenge.
So following that thread, Greta, if it was me, say for example, or somebody I know that could say, I no longer want to be hurt for whatever reason, and I consciously decide that I'm not going to be hurt, then they don't say things that hurt me anymore. Is that typically what would happen then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Because, see, in a relationship, you would be supporting your mate. Your mate is going to be supporting you.
Mhm.
So if you don't love yourself, then the mate is going to show you many ways that you don't love yourself. Some people get in what they call physical abusive relationships, and they are subjected to being hit by the other person, So then the thing is, why do you want to be hit? Because that's a punishment for you. You want to feel pain.
Well, it seems counterintuitive that anybody would want to do that, though.
You'd be surprised how many people want to feel pain. Look at how many people are out there in relationships where they're hit by their mates, both male and female. It doesn't just go one way. It's not always the female. Sometimes it's the females attacking the males physically.
And
Like
so oh, sorry. No,
no,
I was saying you're proposing that, whatever you're experiencing, even if you're experiencing some kind of physical abuse in your life, you're creating that. And there's a reason in you that you're creating that experience.
absolutely.
So we have to take a short break. And when we come back, we will explore in a little more depth about how that is possible and what maybe we can learn or what maybe is residing within us that we need to take a deeper look at. So this, experience, if it is unwanted, you can release and experience something else. Listeners, thank you for being here with us today. You've been listening to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. I'm Yvonne. I'm here this morning with Greta Leigh. And in a little bit, the Realm of Beings will also be here with us. We're on Transformation Talk Radio every Friday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. So thank you, listeners, right now, the ones that are here with us live and the ones that will be listening at a different time. And every Friday we kind of spend some time never knowing what's going to happen for sure, because we plan for our podcast earlier in the week and we discuss our quotes, but then sort of the transmission takes over and we just let it flow and let it go the way it wants to, and the lessons are out there. So today we have chosen to discuss this quote: everything has purpose in your existence and everything works for your good. And right before we went on to break, we were talking about the lesson of being in relationship with another and learning from being hurt in that relationship, and different levels of hurt can occur emotionally, physically, mentally. And you know, we're diving deeper into the idea, because a lot of times when you're, it's so typical, and it's just so accepted that you're in this situation and that other person is the one saying things and doing things, and here I am, I'm the victim, and it's their fault, it's that person's fault. And I feel like it just gets into like a loop, and then it, you know, into a like a vicious cycle of blaming and shaming. And we're trying to, you know, take a pause here and explore deeper into the idea. I know it's not widely accepted, it's an idea that we could be the one in that relationship or those relationships, because sometimes they appear in multiple ways throughout our lives, and at multiple times we are ultimately responsible for creating that that hurt in ourselves. And so, ladies, here we go. We're continuing our conversation here, trying to shift perspective on things here. Shift an impression. How we do that, Greta?
You know, the break gave me some time to think about that a little bit more. I'll use myself as an example.
Oh, good. That helps. When we actually see something, we can see it physical.
I'm going to tell you about my husbands with an S.
Husbands. Okay.
My first husband was, you know, I loved him dearly, but he was he was alcoholic, physically abusive to me. And I mean physically abusive. Okay, so the man up and dies, decides to die. Okay, so I went through that grieving and so forth. And I said, well, I'd like, because I was only, well, 23, 24, 25, 26 years old. And I said, I think I need, I want to have somebody else in my life. Okay, so the man that I created to bring to me was another abusive person. I didn't realize that until we were in the relationship with each other. So he was extremely, extremely abusive. I was not living in the United States at that time. And then later on, we came back, because, you know, you always think, oh, we can work this out. You know, we can work this out. It can work. Our relationship can work, because I was one that was very determined to make something work. Okay. So one day he hit me in my eye. I don't remember what eye. It had probably have to be the right eye. Probably was. So I had to go visit my mother. And my mother said, how did you get that? Oh, I didn't want my mother to know that he hit me. Now, so this is my perception of this. So I tell my mother, I lied. I told her, I said, I bumped into the door. You know, now that's a pretty good bump for you to bump into the door.
Yeah, right.
I was not thinking of anything. And my mother, she knew that the man hit me, but she realized, Greta, you've got to see your self-worth. I can't make you see yourself worthy. Only you can do that. So being mom, she said, oh, okay. She looked like she accepted my reason for having a black eye, you know. But deep down inside of me, I knew that she knew doggone well that man had hit me with his fist in my right eye. Okay. So here we go. Let's examine that. I have one husband who was physically abusive. Now I've married a second husband who's physically abusive, to the extent that I don't even want to admit to anybody that he's physically abusive because I kept it to myself.
Can I just interject one
Oh,
question?
most definitely, yes.
What I would like to also try and understand is, because there's this, insertion of shame, right? And like, we often think shame is kind of a bad emotion or feeling, right? But
Mhm.
like, in certain cases, can it actually, when we're feeling shame, can it actually act as kind of like a compass point? Like there's some part of you that sort of knows what you're experiencing or what you're creating is not for your highest good, and that's why there's some shame in there, like some part of you knows, and that's why, and I've been in this situation before where you're creating something and someone you love or loves you asks you a question and then you don't say the truth. There's, some hiding about what you really created.
But
So
I'd like to add this to what you said, Leigh, is it is. See, that's the illusion. It is working for our quote unquote highest good.
mhm,
See, that's what we don't think. So it's working for your highest good. You just don't recognize it.
So
But
having
if
that feeling of
recognize
shame. So just to clarify, so having that feeling of shame that's okay.
it is okay. It's all right, but you don't want to stay there.
Okay.
This is what we're talking about, shifting impressions. But go ahead, Leigh, finish your story. I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
Leigh.
Need to.
Oh no, I wanted to sort of quickly interject that point so we can kind of cover, like, what does the shame mean? Like, what is the purpose of the shame? And then the other realizations that you made.
Okay, let's go back to being hit in my eye and not wanting to tell my mother my husband hit me, which you picked up and interpreted as being shame. I felt shame. I did feel shame, but
Because you might ask yourself, like, how could I allow to, be with a person who is, who is treating me in this way? Because we know that that's like not how we're supposed to interact. I mean, on
well,
some
sometimes we interact like that because we don't see. It always goes back to love of self. It always goes back to love of self. And see, if I go back to when I was a child, because see, I was prepared for this. It was like my mother taking me by the hand and said, let me teach you. Let me teach you this. So what did she teach me? She used to say this literally to me. You are no good. You are no good. So coming up as a child saying, you're no good, you're going to believe it.
right.
So the unconscious is going to take it back in there. That's why we said earlier on an earlier podcast that we learn a lot of our ways of thinking when we were children. So here's a child that thinks she's no good. That means that's back in my unconscious. So, and it's working. See, mama's no longer saying it to me because I'm 23, 24, 25 years old, but it's still working, you see, because remember the unconscious hangs on to everything. So the working is, you're no good, you're no good, you're no good. So what are my husbands going to show me by beating me? That you are no good. Let me support you in that. But see, at that time, I didn't know. I just know I got tired of being hit.
I have a question, Greta. I mean, we keep going off on these little detours, but what was your mother's part in that? Like you said that you felt like she recognized that you had been dishonest with her in telling her what happened. But like, what's your perception of how she was, like her part in it? Like you said, as a child, she took you by the hand and said, you're no good. But now fast forward into your 20s, she's recognizing, you're going to her and showing her this black eye, but she's not saying anything, right? She didn't
Or
challenge
not
you on it.
protecting you. I mean, she's believing your story.
Up to a certain degree. I knew she didn't, though. She just didn't want to, I guess, embarrass me or whatever. But see, it always goes back to the beginning when I learned I'm no good. Because for my mother to tell me I'm no good, let me ask you, who really was no good in her eyes?
Herself.
Herself, that's right.
She was
So
just projecting her
right,
goodness. I don't know if that's a word,
right,
but her
right.
lack of love.
Of self.
It was just like a mirror. You are a
Yes.
little beautiful little being, and it's like, ugh, she just showed you how she felt about herself. And
Right.
of course, you're like a little beautiful little sponge, and you took it all in, and
Absolutely.
there it is. And it's a sponge, and it keeps working back there.
But
Mhm.
hold on. How come? Wait. I just want to ask something. Why is it that these like lesser projections are generally the ones that
Stick.
stick with us so long?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
I
Why?
mean, I'm sure in our life, there was a time that our parents were loving and kind and they said, oh, you're beautiful, you're special. And why do we not, carry those things, through time? I mean, I guess maybe we do in some, in a some kind of way, but it's these.
There are
It's
two
these love,
sponges in there, like the good sponge and the bad sponge.
right? Like the you're wonderful or you're a good girl or whatever must be something, because we don't like wind up being like completely, you know, we don't create to be completely insane or terrible.
But
But
see,
why?
go ahead. Why is that? Because that had
Yes.
more energy. See, always remember there's energy.
Yes.
That means
Ah,
that when you're
that's
telling me,
key.
I'm no good, I'm no good, I'm no good, I'm building that energy. And she's my mother. So
So
I'm going to believe her. I'm going to trust her. You're right. You know me. You're my mother. So you know that I'm no good. I'm
it's
no
that
good.
intensity we talked about a couple of podcasts ago. It's the intensity of the energy, right?
Right. It's the
The
intensity.
fuel. You're giving it fuel.
Right. So I gave it fuel to all these men. That, and it's taken me a long time to understand that I am worthy.
So, Greta, I'm
Mhm.
sorry to interrupt you, but we're being kind of reminded that we have, in order to have time for the realm of beings to come through and be with us, we have to go to another break soon. But I'm sure now we're kind of on a cliffhanger with your story. We do want to hear what happened. Like, what's
Well, we've
like?
got 2 minutes. We got
All
2 minutes.
right, well, let's get to it and find out. You are on husband number 2 who punched you in your right eye, and mama just, she saw it and pretended that it was there and believed you,
Yeah, well,
pretended to believe your story.
eventually, I left. I won't
Okay.
tell you how I left, because when you're involved in a situation where you're being physically abused, you are very, when somebody will do like that, you go, because that means if I'm doing like this to you, I'm getting ready to hit you. So a lot of times I shouldn't speak for other women. I should speak for myself. Then, you raise your hand like that, I go like that, and then I got really, really, you're not going to hurt me anymore. That's where I got to. I'm not allowing you to do that. So, the second husband, when he was coming after me one day, I said, that man is getting ready to kill me. I want you to know I didn't stab him out. That everybody will just have to use their own imaginations. But I did send him to the hospital because you're not going to hit me anymore. So that's how that second one ended. The third one went into more emotional abuse than physical. So I said to myself, Greta, you're doing better.
You're moving up the ladder. No. That was so sweet.
It's almost like those fields are like the physical body, then the emotional, and then mentally, I guess. Sometimes people use their thoughts as weapons against another.
Yeah, but still dealing with the same thing. But it wasn't physical. That third husband never hit me one day in our marriage. And that lasted for about 16 years, you know. But then I decided, I said, this is not working for me. And by that time, I had started learning about creation of reality. Yeah. So then that's when that understanding took me down a different path, to search out my worthiness and to know that I am worthy. Everybody is worthy. Everyone.
Yeah. Wow. That is a beautiful lesson to kind of take a pause. We are all worthy. I am all worthy. I am worthy. So we do have to go to our second break here, and just want to remind the listeners, if you would like to ask or participate in the podcast, the call-in number is 1-800-930-2819. And if you don't feel like calling in, you can always send us a message on Facebook Live or through the Transformation Talk Radio website, which we're also being streamed on live today. So ladies, let us take a pause here and take a little break. Let our listeners take a little break, and we'll be back in a minute or two. Thanks for listening.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening, rejoining us. We are shifting impressions, conversations with the realm of beings. And we've reached the third segment of the podcast where the realm of beings gets to directly communicate with us about what we've been speaking about today. Realm, are you with us?
Yes, I'm
Thank
here.
you for joining us. Today, we've been talking about the quotation, everything has purpose in your existence, everything works for your good. What more do you have to tell us and the listeners about this today?
How about if we say that there's nothing but goodness? If we say to you, there's nothing but goodness here. Some people will say, that's not the realm speaking. Or that's somebody that makes no sense. But everything is good. Because everything helps you to move through this illusionary environment that you have chosen to put yourselves in. You chose your experiences. You created your experience. You didn't just create the experiences for no reason. Each one of your experiences you have created. But the thing is, along with your creation, recognize why you created the situation or what happened to you. And then when you look at that, see the goodness in it. See the goodness in everything that happens to you. If somebody hurt you, take it as they hurt your feelings. Then say, why did I create that person to hurt my feelings? And then go down deep inside of self to discover how that person could support you that way. Everything is always about you. And each one of us, all of us, including me, are the force. So therefore, everything is good. If you think outside of goodness, then you are projecting. You are judging. You are looking at yourself in a light that is opposite to that of the force, to that of divinity. If you made a mistake in school with your writing and in mathematics, and you said 2 + 2 is 3, the teacher would say, you've made a mistake. 2 + 2 is 4. Let me show you the difference. Let me show you, here are 3 coins. And now I'm going to put 4 coins underneath. 1, 2, 3, 4. What do you see is different? Then the only answer you're going to say is that the top one has only 3 and 1 is missing. Absolutely. But that's a learning experience. Learning the difference between 3 and 4, and that 2 + 2 = 4 in your way of thinking. You're learning. So those lessons that you've created for yourself are just learnings. That's all they are. You don't have to say, oh my God, look what I did. Look what I created. Oh, I'm a horrible person. I said that to somebody. Don't worry about that either. Because if you said something nasty to somebody, guess what? You are supporting them in some kind of way because you directed the remark to the person, to the other person opposite to you. Therefore, that's their creation of reality. They wanted to hear that they're a son of a gun, or they wanted to hear that they're ignorant. They wanted to hear that. That's why you were able to say it to them. See, start to think differently now. Start to think differently. You are supporting somebody else when you say those things. However, there's a little tiny little twist to it. When you call somebody ignorant, on their side, they've received it because they feel they're ignorant. On your side, you're calling them ignorant, yet not recognizing that the only way that you can call them ignorant is that you have to be ignorant as well. So what you say, watch what you say, watch what you call people. Mothers, watch what you say to your children, be that they're grown up and out of your house or that they're still tiny. Watch what you say, watch what you speak. Embrace the divinity of all life, because all life is divine. Everything has purpose. Everything at all times has purpose, because everything here in this space are lessons that you've given yourselves. So don't wallow in it if you gave yourself a really tough lesson. You think it's tough. If it was with somebody else, they would think it was easy because they have things that are more tougher than that. So it's all by perception, how you think, how you feel about self. So start thinking that you are a wonderful, divine individual. You are the goodness. You are the light. You are the beauty of joy and peace. Be that. Be that for yourselves and for others.
But isn't goodness just a judgment also? Is
Of
it more
course.
just, just things are just,
Of course. But we had to use goodness in this explanation. Because if you really think about it, as I gave the explanation, it would seem that goodness is extreme. That is why we used goodness, but you're absolutely correct, Leigh. Absolutely. Goodness is an illusion.
right. Things just are. We create them and they
Yeah.
are. And I know that's challenging. I mean, for myself too, because I always like to default into judgment. But if we can, just learn, everything just is, and just take it as a lesson and reflect inwardly on what, how is it that we go deeper to, to kind of understand why we're creating what we are doing,
But see, if we can reach a state of seeing everything in goodness, then you can move to the state that you're talking about, that everything is only isness. But it's important to see the goodness first, so that you can see the isness. If you cannot see the goodness, then you will never be able to see a state of isness, because isness is a state of acceptance.
Yeah, that's what I was going to interject. I feel like that's
Regardless.
The bridge
regardless,
is acceptance.
Regardless of what it is.
It's easier to swallow the goodness illusion and accept that for everything.
right, step by step.
See
you got to
goodness.
cross over the bridge.
See goodness in everything.
Yeah.
See goodness in everything, because everything is working for your good. So see goodness. When you see goodness, then you can see the isness, as I've just stated. Yes. Yes, it is. To cut your finger is a good thing.
Right, because
to fall down is a good thing, because then you can examine, why did I fall down? Why did I cut my finger? So that you can understand more of yourself. This whole experience is exploration of self, exploration of your divinity. That's what this is. Exploration of your divinity. It's not exploration of anything else but that. It doesn't matter even if you're a serial killer. It's still exploration of self. It is still exploration in divinity, understanding who you are. That's what that is.
Realm, do you have one final word for our listeners before we wrap up another episode of Shifting Impressions?
It's the same thing we've been always saying to everybody. Love self. Everybody and everything is divine because everything is the force. Not part of the force, but is the force.
Thank you, Realm, for joining us today. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Greta. Thank you to our producer, who is always with us. And as always, listeners, thank you so much for joining us today as we discuss these quotations. And remember your divinity until we create each other again. This has been Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. Thank you.
Once again, thanks for joining us at Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings on TransformationTalkRadio.com. As you have explored today's creation of reality experience with Leigh, Yvonne, the Realm, and me, Greta, each of you is being supported by us in further developing the understanding that you are not just an individual existing in linear time and space, but a multidimensional force of infinite possibilities who is connected to all. So begin to create the realities you want. Join us every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time and 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Shifting Impressions at TransformationTalkRadio.com. So long until we create each other again next Friday.